Trust is like the trip switch for being alive.
Very
Trust, just trust. Trust the journey, trust yourself, trust your process. It's just like, well, the feminine is love in the container. She's non-rational, but she's not irrational. But she doesn't say to him, come and rescue me, get me out of here. She says to him, remind me who I am.
And to me, the shadow work and the healing work and the meditation and the divine feminine journey inward is to create more optionality. My guest is the extraordinary Alana Fairchild. She is a globally renowned figure, considered a publishing phenomenon with over 70 titles in print. And in this conversation, she takes us deep into what it actually means to walk with these energies in real life. We talk about rebirth, shadow, and my true power is not about control, but about remembering who you are beneath the fear.
That strong feminine that can handle whatever it is that's going to arrive and recognize we're a drop in the ocean, but we do belong to the ocean, and the ocean has power.
How much can we love our shadow? How much can we love the truths that are being unveiled about ourselves?
I think you can.
Alana Fairchild, I never do this. I never just hit record, but I was like, wait, I have to just I want people to receive my gushing over how grateful I am to you and how excited I am to do this interview. I mean, full disclosure, I have not prepared anything with my left brain mind. However, I have been preparing for this interview for 5 years because I have been working with your Isis deck. This is a brand new one because I've gifted it to so many. I've probably gifted this deck to over 150 people. It has been one of my greatest teachers. God, it makes me want to cry. It has initiated me again and again and again. Every single time I pull a card from this deck, it feels like a whole initiation into a new realm of consciousness. It inspired your work, your oracular channel inspired. I just returned from a 2-week pilgrimage in Egypt where the full thing was an Isis. We started in Aswan. We started at the Isis gate. Everyone brought offerings from their land to give to her and to give to the Nile. And then we went up the Nile and then climax literally and figuratively at the pyramids, offering our prayers to the planet through pleasure. So deep, deep bow. And thank you for saying yes to being on the show. I'm so happy to have you here.
Oh, you're so luminous and generous. I'm really so grateful to have the conversation, and thank you for that. How beautiful! Like, I can just feel the purity and the connection you have with her in your heart. How special is that?
It's
Love
big.
her so
And I'll
much.
say though that before I was gifted this deck, which shout out to my ex-partner Adam Schlender, he made a birthday party for me in 2021. So we're deep COVID, deep lockdown. And it was a little bit of spiritual theater where he was initiating me as the high priestess of embodied joy. But he built an Isis temple and he got this deck and put it on, and everyone brought ceremonies to offer him because my friends are my friends. They're world-class witches. And so it was not spiritual theater. It ended up being a legitimate initiation for all of us and changed the course of all of our lives. But it felt like some fractal of the divine feminine, some fractal of Isis dropped in. And ever since, every ceremony, every breath work, every retreat, she works through me in a really potent way. And just now, when we were in Egypt, we were at the pyramids and I had thousands of people's prayers printed out. We built this altar and we did a Ziva magic ceremony in Cairo. And at the end, this man came up to me. He's like, Emily, my family has been pyramid keepers. They've been temple keepers of the pyramid for over 700 years in his family. And he said, I felt like tonight you reactivated a piece of the pyramid's magic and it feels like you are playing a role of Isis. And I want you to know that happened because of your work and because of this deck. So thank you.
Oh, that's amazing. What beautiful depth. I love how she shows up, the divine feminine in whatever form, whether it's Goddess Isis or whomever people are really resonating with, but at the right time.
Yeah.
She just, she's flawless. She just arrives with what we need. Yeah, there's so much grace in that.
So much grace. So can you just give us a window into, to me, I really know you in this channel and this deck, but I know my ex-roommate or my former roommate, Regina Thomashower, aka Mama Gina, she works with your Sacred Rebels deck every single morning. I would come out, candles lit. She's pulling cards. Without fail. There might be a few other decks that she works with, but that is her go-to.
Yeah.
But can you just give us a window into how many decks have you created? What was your first one? How did you start channeling the divine feminine?
I've forgotten how many I've written. That's honestly, it's 20 something, I think. I don't think it's 30 yet. I'm not sure,
Okay.
but there's
20 and
there's a
30.
lot.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And the first one I wrote was the Kuan Yin Oracle,
Okay.
and that happened just from a series of synchronicities. I really wanted to write a deck, but I didn't really know how to start. And I was teaching in Europe at the time, actually, and towards the end of the teaching, it just felt like I had given, I just really poured myself into it, put all my energy into it, and I felt like there was a spiritual gift coming. Like the work is a gift, but I felt there was something else. I just didn't know what it was. And then my publisher, who'd done a few meditation CDs with me, emailed me and just said, I don't know why I'm thinking of you for this, because I was thinking of giving it to a more established writer, because I hadn't really written anything in his companies yet. I'd just done some meditation CDs, right? So he said, but I have all this artwork, and I was wondering if you'd like to write a Kuan Yin oracle. And he sent me a file of all the artwork by Zheng Hao, which is beautiful. And I had all this artwork in my house. I didn't even know much about it. And I saw it all there, and it just felt, I could actually feel the universe aligning in some way.
Mhm.
And so I instantly said yes, and I wrote it. And then maybe 3 months after submitting the manuscript, he said to me, would you write an Isis oracle? I don't have artwork. You'd have to plan the whole thing from scratch. I do have an artist. You'd have to give him instructions on the deck and then outline. Would you do it? And I said, absolutely. I love ancient Egypt and have since I was a child. And so that was the second one that happened. And
Wow.
it kind of just emerged. Yeah.
Onion first, Isis second. This is your second deck. I mean, wow, like the level of mastery coming through. And can you just give us a window into like how much research do you do, or do you open up your channel? Like how does the process work of creating the deck?
Yeah, it
Mm.
really varies depending on the deck. Some of them I do an enormous amount of research. The first ones I did virtually none. In fact, for the very first one, the Kuan Yin one, which continues to kind of really reach people, I remember when I was writing it, I thought, I just want to share the messages that I receive from spirit on the regular. So that deck, it's dedicated to Kuan Yin. It's all about compassion. But at the same time, it's also, these are the conversations I have in my head with spirit all the time. And
Mm.
I thought, I'm going to share that. And I remember when I was writing it, I thought, I don't know if anyone's going to connect with this. And that's just been out in the world. I think it's been talked about in like Vanity Fair, and like just it's random, but it's just it just is. And then with Isis, I always loved her, and I loved what she's about. I think she's so relevant for this day and age. Her ability to be present to negativity and extreme devastation and heartbreak, and not lose a sense of optimism and dignity and willingness to continue, and this sense of always coming back to the truth of who we are, who she is in her heart. I love that. I think it's so important. So
Mhm.
I was really leaning into that. But the process of writing that deck was very different to writing Kuan Yin. So Kuan Yin was so much about the heart. And Isis is love, but the quality that kept coming through, and like I felt that I was being asked to explore in that, was power. How do
Mhm.
we relate to it? How do we not become corrupted by it?
Oof.
How do we navigate the need for it in the world without losing connection to our heart and our sense of goodness and grace? And there's so many things that she teaches us. I mean, I've written a whole festival devoted to Isis. I
Really?
adore her
Is
so
that
much.
still is that happening? Is it something I could attend?
Yeah, yes, it's online. It's called the Isis 888 Festival. I aligned it with Lionsgate, but there's a performance piece in there that's an actual ritual, that's a living ritual. I've
Mhm.
written soul retrieval with her, the Isis Magica exercise in that. There's teachings about her and what she's about, because I feel she's very much living. She's living. When you talked about, feeling like you're part of this channel,
Mhm.
I completely understand that. And I feel that this form of the divine feminine, many forms, but definitely Isis, she's reaching through.
Yeah,
She wants to connect with many of us. And
yeah.
one of her gifts is that not only magic, but rebirth. She takes something that's broken and she brings something new, and an evolution that meets the need of the present moment. We need that collectively, but we need it individually too. I mean, how many of us are trying to outgrow old patterns, and it doesn't fit in where we want to be in the world and how we want to be? And we need this kind of spiritual fertility that has a creative intelligence. So it's not just we piece ourselves back together, and then we just put ourselves through the ringer yet again without anything really changing. She is the changing consciousness, I feel,
Mm.
that helps us, move in a different pattern, and that's so important.
Yeah, I love what you said of the spiritual fertility. And then finding that power in the rebirth, in the remembering. And it's interesting, like to me, what I love so much about her, I mean, it's almost infinite, but among others, is that she represents really the mother and the lover, that she's the Madonna and the whore, that she's one of the few archetypes in feminine that really have both. And, if you look at Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene, both of them priestesses of the Isis lineage. And I think that right now, especially like as the divine feminine is being rebalanced and rebirthed on the planet, and as we see so many of the systems built on unsustainable foundations dying and being destroyed, it's like we need this sort of creative fertility. We need to tune into, well, who and what is birthing the new earth, and can we do it from this place of masculine and feminine balance inside of ourselves and in the collective. And the thing that
Wow.
I personally really relate to and is like baked into Ziva, and specifically Ziva magic, is that it's like we're using sexual energy not just to manifest, like not just sexual energy to manifest like sex magic, but also using the eros, using the turn on to transmute the suffering, our own grief, our own rage, and doing that through the body, like through the feminine channel. And I think that right now, especially like in this particular moment, we're seeing such corruption, such power specifically over sexuality being highlighted in the world, and the
Yeah.
way that those systems have shaped our governments, shaped our judicial system, shaped our press, shaped our media in ways that none of us could even see, but maybe we could feel, right? Where it's just like this
Yeah.
level of like repression of the eros. And so I think that's one of the reasons why she's knocking on the door and like almost like presencing herself and being like, I am here, and there is a reclamation to be had, and there's a rebalancing to be had, so that we can reclaim our sensuality and sexuality as sacred and holy.
That's beautiful.
Mm.
I I'm always intrigued by Isis because in the mythology, she's surrounded by different male energies, and the the power in her stability in her own feminine through that process, how she relates to the forces of evil, how she relates to the forces of goodness,
Mhm.
and her understanding of the way that that goodness needs to evolve and become not only compassionate but also wise, I think is
Mm.
incredibly potent. And there's something about her. I still remember this story. It's one of my favorites with her. But when she's trapped in the spinning house that's set, so excuse me, for those who are maybe not familiar with the story, the evil god Set, who kind of
Osiris's brother. Yeah.
imprisoned her in a spinning house,
Mm.
and she couldn't get out. And I always think this is like the times or the moments in our lives when we're entangled in something, something that's unclear, or something, a pattern or a relationship or a habituation, a paradigm that we feel is obscuring us and stopping us from moving freely. It could be something internal. It could literally be something in the external world as well. And she has this connection, right, with Thoth, with the ibis-headed god of magic and writing and creativity, and they have this special relationship. But she doesn't say to him, "Come and rescue me, get me out of here." She says to him, "Remind me who I am." That's what she says, and through that, she just goes, "Oh yeah, I know how to do this." And I love this interplay that she has with the masculine. She never looks to be led. She looks to be supported. She
Mm.
looks to collaborate and connect and work with. Like she births Horus, so she's bringing through the masculine energy into our world, or into in the myth, it's restoring the kingdom to alignment, where it had become defiled. I mean, we can see that in the world around us. We can see where things are not just,
Mhm.
where things are not feeling like they're in correct alignment with the heart and with truth. So she used that principle, that energy within us. I mean, for me, she's everywhere. Like, so for me, I have two healing modalities that I wrote. One's the Kuan Yin transmission, which is 5 facets of the divine feminine. And we invoke them through mantra and practice, and we bring them into the cells of the body, working with elemental wisdoms. She's fire in that. She just had to be there. So it's Kuan Yin, it's Tara, Mother Mary, Goddess Kali, and Isis. And then I have another that's kind of a ceremonial high magic light worker practice called Sarasvati healing. And that works with a number of different goddesses, angels, and ascended masters. And she's in there. She has to be in there.
Isis is in both healing modalities.
Yes, she's everywhere. she's and she keeps appearing, and I feel that persistence is very much her. Like the thing that I really personally relate to with her is it's not like she does one thing and then she's successful. It's hard. And every time she thinks that she's like recovered all the parts of the body of her beloved, Set does something else and the whole thing is like smashed to smithereens and she has to start all over again. So there's this sense of determination with her. It's creativity, it's optimism, but it's determination. I mean, how many women understand this, especially if you're trying to build something that runs contrary to the belief systems you've had before or the values that are held in society or whatever it may be. But there is this feeling with her of don't give up. Like she is a sacred rebel.
She is a sacred rebel.
Yeah.
What I'd love to do is I usually start the podcast with a bit of a prayer and run it like a ceremony. And I just wanted to capture my enthusiasm for meeting you right out of the gate. But I'd love to just pause now and perhaps together we could do a prayer that everyone could witness and do with us. And like we can pull a card from the deck and drop in. And it's not really an opening prayer anymore because we're certainly opened. But just give this transmission if you feel available for that.
Yeah, for sure. That
I
sounds
think it's
beautiful.
great. So I'll just tune into the collective, offering the prayer as I shuffle this deck that you and I find even greater coherence with each other, that our particular fields, that the toroidal field of love around us spans big enough to encapsulate each other. I think you're in Australia, all the way from Australia to New York, from New York to Australia, and that inside of our toroidal fields overlapping and amplifying, that we include every single person listening to this podcast, past, present, and future. May they be included in this transmission and in this prayer, and tuning into the collective consciousness that is being created right here, right now. Just tuning into what is the medicine that is needed. The medicine is the most relevant for each listener, so they receive exactly what they're meant to receive, no more, no less, for theirs, for ours, and for the divine feminine's highest good. I pulled the Truth's Unveiled card, the revelation of Isis. And this card, I mean, right now, the time that we're recording this, there's a huge unveiling of what has been sort of a dark underbelly on the planet happening specifically around sexuality. And I'm sure that there's many internal truths as well. But do you want to speak to this card, or should I read from the deck, or what would be your preference?
I can speak to it,
Yeah, great.
absolutely. Just what I'm feeling in this moment with this. And it's something that I've been seeing lately. The way it was described to me was like a blanket of evil being rolled back off the earth where it'd been sitting for a very long time. And so there's something that's happening in this moment, but there's also something that relates to human history and goes back thousands of years. And most of us will be aware of the notion of intergenerational trauma. Like this is something that we'll feel in ourselves. We'll have a sense that the work that we're doing on ourselves is part of a legacy of healing, and that our own individual journey and presence is something incredibly valuable, and at the same time, not only for us, but a contribution, right? So there's this pulling back of this blanket, and as it's happening, the things that have been trapped underneath, that have been denied light, that have been hidden, that have been kind of shrouded in secrecy, are not necessarily fully formed. They've kind of been distorted. And so what we're actually witnessing as this is peeling back is something that is unpleasant, disturbing, distressing even, something that might seem profoundly confronting. And again, it's not only collective, this is personal. We'll be having this in our lives where we'll be seeing things that we haven't before been able to see. And there's something around that that is a grace and a challenge. And I think the challenge is not to lose faith or become negatively mesmerized by despair when you see it. And the grace in it is that when we see it, we can do something with it. We can respond to it. We can choose to hold that awareness and hold our heart space around it and let it actually have the luminosity that it was previously denied. The kind of, it's like the tincture of truth, right? The application of something that's deep and real, and we're held, we're holding it in our awareness. And through that, it can change. There can be transformation, but you've got to stand firm in the center of your own truth and your own sense of connection to love and something that is genuinely good, that lives in you and wants to express itself through life and flows through all of us that are on this path and really want to contribute in some constructive way to the culture. Having faith in that. And through that, whatever comes up, we have strength. That's Isis again, strength. We have the strength, we have the resilience, we have the ability to witness it, to feel what we feel about it, which is probably a myriad of things, and still stand true and believe in the power of love, not give up.
Mm. Ah, it's such an honor to witness you go into your channel and go into your orator and into your oracle just in real time. Thank you for sharing that gift with us. And it feels so, so true, like such deep medicine right now. I just got off a call right now. It was like our final integration call for this Egypt trip. And, this was an Isis pilgrimage into Egypt, which is very much an amplifier. And it's not easy medicine, Egypt. It's to me, it felt like a 10 days of ayahuasca ceremony. Even though we were sober, we weren't doing medicine other than the temples. But it felt like each one got increasingly more intense, and not all, but many of our shadows and triggers got highlighted for deletion. And the theme of this call that I just got off was basically like, how much can we love our shadow? How much can we love the truths that are being unveiled about ourselves? How much can we love the triggers? And to me, it's like, that's the price that you pay to afford yourself the luxury to receive the light codes from these temples, to receive the gifts of Hathor or Isis or any of these sacred temples, which there's an energy, there's a life force in them. But to me, I keep seeing this spiral. And I'll tell you a quick story, is that I
Yeah.
went to Egypt and I was like, I've done it. I've healed my relationship with the masculine, because I was very much like waiting for the magical CEO or the magical man to come in and rescue me. And like, once I heal my relationship with the masculine, then some magical man is going to show up and save me. And that's not it. It's not Isis's medicine. It's not my medicine. However, I did show up in Egypt and be like, I've done it. Like, I've done so much ayahuasca, so much IFS, so much journaling, so much inner child work. And it felt like something really did shift. Like, if Egypt is an amplifier, it was amplifying that. Like, it was like the red carpet had been rolled out for me. Like, every mat greeting me at the airport, gifting me coffees and breakfast and like Queen's Guard, and just felt like, whoa, this is different than the last time I was in Egypt. And then just when you think like, I've reached some new level, wham, like rug pull, most intense initiation of my life with the least support. All of the men that were there left, the man I was dating gone, like just all of the structures dissolved, and I was in more need than I have ever been in. And it was highlighting like the really young part of Emily that's like, oh, daddy's better. Daddy's going to stop drinking. I can trust him now. And then like, foomp, angry and drinking again. And so it was just like such a real time example of like massive, massive light codes and initiations, legitimately ushering into a new level of the video game. And then simultaneously, we got to go even deeper into the wounded child. And so it's like, to me, that's what this Truth Unveiled is like. Where are the shadows that we've not wanted to see about ourselves?
I love that.
Mm.
Shadow work is powerful. And it's interesting too. It's like,
And we're in Scorpio
I love,
season.
oh, we're feeling it. There's no escaping it.
I really want to escape it, and then you really can't.
I know. I hear you. But I love, like, this is where the feminine wisdom, I think, is really useful because, you talk about loving the shadow. Sometimes it's hard. You don't want to. Sometimes things are given to you and it's like it's this seething, brutal, poisonous little mess. And you go, this sucks. What am I
You're
going to
gonna
do with
love
this?
this about myself.
Yeah. How do I work with this?
Mhm.
And sometimes things seem very broken, but love is powerful. As a
Ugh.
healer, it really is. But the feminine wisdom, in the linear facet, in the more masculine perspective, and I believe masculine energy is profoundly important, but
Yes.
we kind of live in a cultural mindset that skews towards it. So it instills certain parameters and perspectives in us that aren't always that helpful or realistic. And one of them, in the masculine view, is the linear. So
Mm.
when you grow in the masculine, view, and I don't mean men, I mean this kind of energy that moves in a straight line. We think, oh well, if I'm growing, I'm just going to grow like that, so I can, be on the path and grow in the way that feels beautiful and always in the light. And the
Certainly
feminine,
have transcended contraction. Certainly have transcended
yeah,
shadow work.
yeah, absolutely. And it's just, I think we know that that's not accurate and we know that that's immature, but there's still this sense that somehow if we're on the path, we can avoid it. But the feminine principle, I feel, teaches us you can't open halfway, like half side of you. You either open or you're not open. And if you're going to open, it's circular, it's multidimensional, it's spherical, it's, the spiral, it's the before and behind you, and it's the left and the right and the light and the dark, and it's all of it. So you open the heart, for example, and you get, the insight and the upliftment and the inspiration, and you also get all the trauma and all the pain and whatever else is in there, and it's all of it. So
Mm,
it's kind of, you don't have to love what it is, but I think you can love the fact that you're making progress, that it's
mm,
there. It's actually a really good sign.
I just recently heard a quote. It was like, "You don't have to love what happened to you, but you
Mm.
get to love the version of you that lived through it."
Yeah,
And I
I think
really
that's
love
beautiful.
that, where it's like, that feels like a bit of remothering or reparenting. So I'm so curious, like, have you always, like, did you grow up, like, connected to nature? Were you always a witch? Did your
Yeah.
oracular gifts come online? Like, can you give us a little window into, like, baby Alana?
Yeah. So I've always had this connection with spirit and I've always been quite open about it. Like I was raised in a Catholic household, but I also always was such a little pagan running around worshipping tree spirits. I used to lay on my back, and now I realize it was a Dzogchen practice, but back then I didn't know what it was. I used to just lay on my back in the garden, look at the sky, and commune with, I didn't know what to call it, God, the universe, consciousness, whatever. So I've
Mhm,
always had that. And
mhm,
I thought everyone had it open. I mean, we all have the potential, right? But
mhm,
I thought everyone had it open. And it wasn't really until much later on in my life, and I'd already started working in this field, which I started when I was, I don't know, about 20 or thereabouts, 21, something like that. And
mhm.
I realized, oh no, not everyone has this. And I thought, well, I better do something about that. And then I started to create just, gosh, everything now. I write oracle decks, but I do albums of music and meditation. I do live performance with ritual and voice, and I have healing modalities. I do retreats, like just every possible way that I can think of to create space where I can give of this energy directly, because one of the things I find very beautiful and very reassuring, especially when you think about the extent of suffering and its pervasiveness and
Mhm,
how much need there is in the world, how many people deeply need healing. The thing that I love is you just need to give some energy. We're like plants. Like if we get a bit of the right energy, our system knows what to do. We know how to heal. We know how to take the steps, even in the most, let's say deep shadow terrain, because that seems to be the theme today of
mhm,
Truths Unveiled. So you've had some shocking connection or something that's taken place that's led you into that, maybe even despair or depression or confusion or whatever it might be. Oh, just don't panic, beloved. Like that's what I would say. You have it within you to find your way. And again, the feminine, the masculine likes to see clearly and then make assessment. But the feminine knows how to move in the dark. One of my
Oof.
favorite, yeah,
Feminine
goddesses from
knows how to move in the dark. That feels
yes,
really important.
Bastet, the cat-headed goddess, right, from ancient Egypt.
Ah,
Love her. Love her. She moves in the dark. She's psychic protection.
mm.
She also loves a party, right? She loves loves a good ritual party, loves to dance. And will, and just if anything's coming in that shouldn't be there. I think it's a great combination.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It was interesting when I thought I was going on an ISIS pilgrimage, and then we get on our boat, which, by the way, was called La Magdalena. It was a floating Mary
Oh,
Magdalene temple that had just been built. And we get on, and there are 28 statues of Sekhmet on the boat. And I was like, oh boy.
I'm obsessed with her.
Well, I am scared of her, to be honest. And I'm a little like, I'm a meditation teacher. I'm a former Broadway star. Like, I'm a little bit on the love and light spiritual bypass side of the spectrum. Like, if I could just bypass all of the shadow work, I would. And so therefore, and I have a lot of light, so there's a lot of shadow.
I
So
hear you.
we get on the
Yeah.
boat and I'm just like, oh no. I'm like scared, legitimately scared. And then I pull 3 cards that morning. And of course, one of them is a Sekhmet card. And the
Yeah.
only other time I had pulled that card was the last time I did ayahuasca. And literally, you wrote a warning. You're like, do not read this ritual unless you are ready for this medicine. And I was like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. But let me just read it just in case. And then
Just in case I'm actually ready.
it was full blown. So
That's
and I
so
think this
hilarious.
this pilgrimage ended up being very, very, very intense medicine. Like I said, and people are like, how was Egypt? I'm like, well, it was like riding a dragon. I can ride a dragon now, which is something I didn't know I could do, but it was not gentle. And I don't think Sekhmet is gentle, but
No,
no, yeah. But
she's
tell me why
not.
you love her.
Well, I love that you were scared of her because one of her names is the Lady of Dread. But I've been obsessed with her since I was a little girl.
Hmm.
I've been to Egypt and I loved her. I'm going to take a group there actually, sort of on retreat. And I love how you describe it as an amplifier because I think that's true as well. All those pyramids, how can it not be, right?
Hmm.
Stargates, all of those things. But about Sekhmet, she's terrifying, but she's the patron saint of healers.
Hmm.
So what's that? I was fascinated by that.
Hmm.
And there's something about her wrathful wisdom, I would call it,
Like wrath, like
yeah,
WARATH.
yeah, like
Mhm.
fierce anger, holy anger, sacred rage.
Yeah.
And she has this quality. The first time I really kind of understood her in a deeper way, I was at a dance meditation. I host these sometimes, and I was playing Rage Against the Machine by
Sounds like my kind of dance meditation.
yeah,
I
yeah,
also do rage dance. I mean, Ziva Magic is rage dance. So,
yeah, Rage Against the Machine. Killing in the Name of, right? That was the song. And I was dancing, and it's a lot of anger. There's a lot of like, "F you, I won't do what you tell me," that gets screamed out, and everyone kind of loses it. And some people find it confronting, but I, in that moment, felt her presence and felt this sense of transcendent bliss. And I was like, okay, she's about freedom. I mean, one of her other names is She Who Loves Mayat, so the goddess of justice that has the feather in her hair. And Sekhmet
who
obviously is
loves
the
who?
lion, Mayat, so
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Maat,
Yeah.
and with the feather.
Mhm.
So she's the goddess of justice. Sometimes she has wings. And so Sekhmet is serving justice. She's serving alignment. Mayat is the cosmic order, things as they're meant to happen and when they're meant to happen. So I think of Sekhmet as like the clearing power.
Mhm.
Sometimes I think we need her. I do. There are times when I know what I need to do or I almost know what I need to do. And I always work hard, but maybe I'm working hard climbing the wrong mountain. So if that's the case, she'll come in and just remove the mountain. So, and it's like, oh, and then so you're on the right path. So she's corrective,
Uh-huh.
she's protective and corrective. And I trust that because I think the world is fierce with distraction and with choice. And, it's an amazing place to be in if we have a lot of choice and we have a lot of freedom. But for that to continue to be an asset and not to become something that is a kind of pretty gilded cage of sabotage, we need to trust in the forces that are going to bring us into line if we kind of lose our way or get a bit,
Mm.
pulled off the path into this relationship or that practice or whatever it might be, to just keep bringing us back. Not that we're not allowed to have choice, but life is short, I feel. I really do. And we're here to kind of experience so much of it. And with choice, there can be procrastination or overwhelm or confusion. It's fine, it's part of our process. I mean, I've traveled in places and I led a group on retreat to Tibet and Nepal, and that was incredible. I mean, there's a whole story around that, but most of that, there was no internet access at all. So I know what it feels. You felt like you're in a bell jar a lot of the time. So
What does that mean? Not tell us what
it,
about being in Tibet and not having internet felt like being in a
it
bell jar, and what does being in a bell jar mean to you?
So being in a bell jar felt like it was kind of cutting off so much of the rest of the world. It's like you're in a little bubble and not in a necessary like a sacred space bubble because that's very expansive, right? When you're in sacred space, it holds potential, and it's very, even though it's enclosed in a way, the energy is very open. In the bell jar, it's like this is the reality and you don't get access to anything else. You're kind of trapped underneath the glass. So we can do it with ourselves if we become very fixed in the way we see things, or this is the way it is and I'm not going to open my mind to something else.
That's the
It's like,
spinning house, right?
yes, a spinning house. It's we bell jar ourselves, however you want to describe it.
Mhm.
But it takes away choice. It takes away options. So I've experienced that. It's not great. So I came out of that and I thought, modern life is difficult. And one of the things that can be difficult is just the array of options and things that you could choose to do or how you could choose to respond. How do you know what's right? How do you know if something's going to end up being a, fool's journey? Or what do I do with all of this? And I came out of that and I thought I'd still rather have this difficulty of choosing than to have my right of choice taken away completely. I have no idea how we got onto this.
Well, it's bringing up a lot. I don't know either, but I'm like where we are. I like we're navigating in the darkness.
We are. Just where we
Finding our
should be.
way.
Few
Um,
priestesses in the dark. Yeah.
but I just recently was saying, like in the last 2 days, which is not something I've ever said before, that trauma takes away your choice, right? Then when we get in those spinning houses, when we get in those bell jars internally, it's usually because we're in some sort of fight or flight, right? That like, okay, my past trauma, that I unexamined shadow has put me in this place where I do not have options. And to me, the shadow work and the healing work and the meditation and the divine feminine journey inward, the point, if you will, is to create more optionality. But then this seems in direct contrast. I've been studying the Vedas for 16 years. So I've been like a student of Northern India and that particular pantheon. And one of the sayings that I love so much from the Vedas is render me choiceless. But that choicelessness is coming from an internal compass, which is, I think what you were saying is that Sekhmet destroys anything that is not your dharma, destroys anything that is not your path, so that you are rendered choiceless, but from an internal clarity of compass versus a choicelessness that is happening from external trauma or perhaps a lack of freedom societally. If I don't meditate during the day, my sleep is almost guaranteed to be off that night. The other thing is if I don't take magnesium, then I almost certainly will wake up 2 to 3 times throughout the night. So the way that I prevent that is to make sure I meditate every day and I take my magnesium every day. And my favorite magnesium is from Upgraded Formulas. It absorbs into the body 99.9%, is the only magnesium on the market that is tested and proven to do that. It's like 8x more than other magnesiums. And you can get 20% off if you go to upgradedformulas.com/Emily and use the code Emily.
Yes, I mean, absolutely. And there's an idea with this, and I kind of think of it as the mystic surrender, where you come to the place where you might know in your lower self, for example, or in your old attachments or patterns that something comes up and you want it, but if you can feel in your heart that it's not aligned with the truth and where you're going and your real path and your purpose, there'll be a part of you that even though you might be craving that thing will actually say, this is not what I really want. And that's the choicelessness is almost just deep alignment, where anything that doesn't feel like it resonates or it's in this deep truth that you value, above all else, that you're willing to let go of things that you might love or let go of things that make you comfortable because you're moved by this deep truth and you need to live in harmony with it. That's the kind of the choiceless state as I would describe it. It's surrendered, it's aligned, but you have to have something to be able to give it away. If we're disempowered and we think, well, now I'm choiceless, no, you've just been blocked. You're just not being connected to your will and your sense of freedom. But you can't ever give away that sense of will or surrender it rather, or align with it if you've never really owned it. So you have to develop it first. You have to be able to say, this is my strength. And from that position of strength, will I allow myself to be led, by this inner truth? And that I think is something that's very powerful.
Okay, there's 85 directions I want to go, but I'm gonna
Many choices.
Do you have any decks specifically on like the Vedic or the ancient Indian pantheons? I know you said you have a
Yeah.
Saraswati healing modality, but have you worked with that pantheon?
Yes, I have. So in Sarasvati healing, there are who is in there? I'm trying to think who the deities are, but Durga, Kali Ma, for example, are in there. Lakshmi's in there. But I've written a Kali oracle.
Oh, that's
Just
right.
it's I
I think
love her.
our
My
mutual friend Vailana interviewed you on that.
Yeah.
She did a whole album, and I mean, that's been really her teacher. I feel like Kali Ma has been her teacher the way that Isis has been my teacher.
Yeah, I love
Mhm.
Kali. I've
Mhm.
adored her since I was a child and saw a terrifying photo of her, like an image, an icon in a friend's house. And I was like, I don't know what this woman is, this, with the tongue and the severed heads and whatever. I mean, I'm quite a peaceful human being, but I do have this great passion for these fierce divine beings. And I think it's their protective nature and their fearlessness that I enjoy taking refuge in.
Mm, mhm.
Yeah.
And is something nice about having the protector being feminine? I think
Yes.
at least I associate oftentimes, like, the divine masculine with, like, protector, provider, but there's something about it happening in this Sekhmet, this Kali, this I don't know why, but I do love it. But this particular journey, we went to the Sekhmet temple, and, one of the facilitators, his name is Haru, and he invited us to offer her our fear. Like anything that you're afraid of, can you offer that fear to Sekhmet and ask her to devour it? Like pray to Sekhmet to devour your fear. And so I did that. And I was like tuning in. It was like fear of being alone, fear of scarcity, and and then like the moment that I touched her, I immediately started heaving, like went like retching in the side, but then like went into a full, Egypt, whatever Egypt release, and then the whole afternoon just sick as a dog. And I mean, it could have, yes, Egypt has its own blessings from the Nile, but this was like the moment that I touched her, there was this purgative, like alchemy that happened, which was fascinating.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, they do. I mean, that's the whole idea with fierce deity. Like if you look more at obviously in ancient Egypt, she's
Mhm,
there in
mhm,
Sekhmet. There's
mhm,
correlations with Kali that are actually pretty interesting. So
mm,
that's in Hinduism, but in Buddhism as well, we have fierce feminine deity, and they're all associated with movement. They're breaking through
mm,
blockages. They're not
mm,
actually angry. They're just galvanizing. So in most traditions, they're considered a kind of resource of last resort. Like I always say, you don't use a chainsaw when you can use a toothpick. Like you just don't. There's no point. But there are times when the peaceful deity. I remember one of my teachers, who was a Dzogchen master, and he used to describe peaceful, spirituality sometimes like staying in a hotel. He goes, it's very nice, but you can't live there all the time. Like sometimes you're going to have noise and you need to kind of deal with it. And that's where this kind of more fierce aspect comes in. And when we look at the world and our exposure through media and all sorts of things these days, we're kind of being forced out of our little respective bell jars in a way, and we're being pushed to deal with things and be exposed to information that we wouldn't normally have to deal with. And I think
mhm,
there's something in that that can be overwhelming, but the potential for it teaches us to lean into our masculine energy of discernment and choice. What do I want to allow in? What do I not? So there is that protective aspect. But then there's the feminine aspect of, well, this has come into my world or my sphere or my awareness. Can I metabolize it? I think that's part of the feminine genius. She knows how to um, uh, build something, transform something from
mhm,
something,
mhm.
turn shit into fertilizer, quite literally. She's
Yeah,
very
like
clever. So,
compost it, like take the shit and turn it into fertilizer for birthing the new earth. And
exactly.
it's really, really well said. So the thing I was going to ask you is, like, you've probably worked with more pantheons more intimately, both on the 3D and the 5D, both from the left brain and the right brain, than almost any other human, certainly that I know, but potentially on the planet. And one of the directives I was getting on the way to Egypt was, okay, Emily, like, you've been studying the Vedas, you've been studying this pantheon for 16 years, and you've been obsessed with Isis and the Egyptian pantheon for the last 5 years. And ostensibly, in the 3 years in the Bible where Yeshua and Mary Magdalene are missing, they went specifically to India and Egypt. And so I'm just curious, like, when you think about these two particular lineages or these two particular Egyptian and Indian pantheons, like, what similarities do you see? What differences do you see? And why do you think Yeshua and Magdalene specifically went on those pilgrimages? Like, what is it about those lineages that wanted to be woven together then? And do you have any hypotheses about what about those lineages want to be woven together and given as medicine now?
I love that. I mean, they are woven together. We perceive things as being separate. We think that, a different culture, a different trajectory and we separate it, but it's not real. It's just we look at the plant above the soil and we don't look at where the roots are intertwined. So, I
Mm,
mean, the correlations between Hinduism and Christianity, for example, the triple deity, the return of these avatars that are expressions of the God that come to save human beings and provide some kind of needed resource. These are things that the holy birth in Egypt with the correlation between Osiris, Isis, and Horus, and the savior that's going to redeem and correct imbalances that have manifested from evil in the world. Like you can see in Christianity how these things play out. It's in paganism.
mm,
The old God and the new God gets consistently reborn through the cycles. Like I think the thing that these traditions have in common, and I hear you with Egypt and India. These are two places I feel a very strong kinship with, and I've
mm.
taken groups to India as well. And it's just, you feel the prayers coming out of the ground. Like it completely redefined my idea of what holy ground actually meant. I thought,
Yeah.
oh, it's actually quite literal.
Yeah, the
Like I'm
trees are
just laying on the
vibrating.
ground.
I'm just
Yeah,
meditating, just being there.
yeah, laying on the floor in Varanasi in my hotel room. Suddenly I'm like, what is that? I was like twitching. I was like, oh, it's mantras coming out of the earth. I was like, can you like even imagine? And talk about shadow. You then step out of the hotel room and there's all the guts with like, bodies being burned and dead goats in the water. I had a group.
Yeah,
People
you're
were
on
like
a on, like, a
freaking out.
sunrise boat ride, you're like, "Oh, there's a human arm floating down
Yeah,
the"
India is real.
Yeah,
It's
light and
very
dark,
real.
all of it.
Light and dark all
Yeah.
together. Yeah, so I hear you about the potency, but these stories, these myths, they're human inheritance. This is our story. I think it's important. It's an important question that you've asked because it cuts through a lot of the ways that we try to deal with stress and overwhelm by segmenting our minds, other people, political affiliations, all of the things that we say, okay, we're this, we're that. No, and we compartmentalize and do all these things. It's a coping mechanism. I get it. I really do get it. But at some level, if we're going to feel a sense of kinship and connection with life, we have to be able to drop beneath what appears to be diverse and look for the common threads and the common roots. And they're there. They're not actually that hard to find. I
Mm,
mean, the stories within Christianity, within Hinduism, within Buddhism, within Egypt, the mythologies of Egypt, really everything that I can think of, any shamanic tradition, which links to then you've just got a whole bunch of cultures that have shamanic roots. They're all about this human journey of being here, being willing to show up for the mystery of your path, believing that there's something within you that has an intelligence and a purpose and a meaning and that life will bring it out of you and help you find it, sometimes through things that seem like blessings and sometimes through things that seem like burdens. And through that process, you'll find yourself in this deeper way and understand this divinity within you that yearns to be here and experience something that we can't articulate or define or explain, but that somehow in its genius and its grace makes it all meaningful and worthwhile and sublime. It's like we're here spiritually removing our veils and our layers one step at a time. And I believe all of these pathways are showing us how to do that. They just have slightly different language, maybe slightly different practices, but they're all coming to the same truth, which
mm.
I think is beautiful.
And do you feel like what you just beautifully channeled, is that the truth that they're all pointing to? And if you had to, like, distill that into, like, just a concentrated message, like, when I was 5, I remember maybe not. At some point in my life, I was like, "Oh, God is a disco ball. We're all looking at the same thing, and we're seeing different fractals of the same thing. You think it's green, and I think it's red." But I'm just curious of, like, of all of the depth of study and the depth of mastery of all these lineages and traditions, like, if we and I love this idea that they're all, like, in the same root system, right? That they're not the same thing, but they have the same root system. Um, if there's something that they're all pointing towards, what would you say that it is?
I think it's just be here.
Mm,
Just be here.
be
Everything
here.
else you'll understand and figure out, whatever you need to know, whatever you need to say. There's a process,
Ooh,
just be here, be with it.
mm, mm.
But I love that you saw that when you were 5 or however long. Sometimes I think we need children to just come in and just speak, I don't know, the United Nations or on a political stage, just go, "Hey, what do you think about all of this? And just let them, you know,
Yes.
just,
I actually do that. I have a 7-year-old son, and sometimes he'll just start going, and sometimes I'll ask him questions, but I have a whole, like, 7-minute voice note where he's talking about the multiverse, and I'm just like, "Yep. Yes, please. Please teach me." But I'd
oh,
say
that's so gorgeous.
what he has taught me is and this particular chapter is, like, to your point, be here. Like, Emily, don't miss it. He's gonna take a nap and wake up different. He's gonna go be at his dad's for a week and come back and have lost 5 of the things you think are most adorable about him, and he will have 5 new ones. But it's just this, like, it feels like children of this constant celebration and grieving of the temporal nature of life and art and beauty, where it's just like you savor it, like suck the marrow out of the now, because he's gonna change, it's going to change. And I, like, thank God I've been meditating for 18 years, because it's giving me, like, at least a fighting chance of being able to really be as much here now as I can. And then the other thing that he's teaching me is this a real-time hermetic principle where it's like, as within, so without, as above, so below. Like, "Oh, Emily, you're stressed. Guess who's gonna just amplify that?" Or, "Hey, Emily, you feel like you're not enough. Guess who's gonna throw a spotlight on that?" Or, it's so fascinating. If I can just regulate my own nervous system, any issues that I had with him just immediately melt away. And I've never had such a fast, real-time amplifier and teacher the way that I do for him with him.
That's so special and
Mm,
how poignant.
mm,
That's really beautiful.
mm, mm. Mhm. What I know this is probably a challenging question, but 'cause
Go for it.
you have
So
somewhere
good.
between 20 and 30 children. We're not sure how many. At some point, you probably do stop counting even if they're humans. But do you have a favorite child? Do you have a favorite deck?
No, no, and everyone asks that, and I always say, "No."
No.
But no, but I do have phases that I go through where, certain deities are speaking to me more than others, and I never choose it consciously. It's not like, I feel like this today or that." It just sort of happens organically, and I always feel like it has to do with either something going on in my soul or something going on the planet.
Mhm.
It varies. But recently, there's been a lot of Kali Ma, and she's really, I wasn't expecting it, and she keeps popping up, and yeah, so that's been really speaking to me, and I've been reflecting why. What is that about? And when I think of her, I think of just this the deep clearing, the kind of we're gonna cross a threshold. You can't take a bunch of stuff with you. What are the essentials? Do you have enough
You mean, like,
courage
collectively as a society, we're crossing a threshold?
and individual, yes, absolutely, and
Mhm,
individually.
mhm.
There's a change that's happening on the planet. I mean, we're feeling it. We're coming through the end of this cycle, and there's a new karmic cycle that's
This
starting. I
Kali
mean,
Yuga, do you feel like that one or different?
I think it's numeric. I think it's a karmic cycle in a smaller way, like a cycle within a cycle. People have different views on whether Kali Yoga is actually finished or whether it's still going. I think we're still in it, and we will be for a while.
Mhm,
But people do have different views on that. And I think it's just like, those watches that have like the main watch face and then they have the smaller clocks
mhm.
within. I think it's all a cycle within a cycle. So I
Yeah,
don't get really too technical about that, but I
yeah.
do feel when we're going through a change, and I feel when it's bigger than just it's another new year kind of thing. This feels bigger than that.
Yeah, it is, I think.
Yeah. And
Mhm,
so she's there to she's doing the clear out. Like if you move house, right? It's different than if you're going on holiday because you're going to come back. But if you're moving house, you do the big clean. You see people suddenly thinking, oh, I should just clear out this cupboard that I haven't really looked at. And you get a bit kind of brutal with the clearing out process because you're not going back there. You want to take something new into the new space. Christ said, don't put new wine in old wineskins. So we're kind of clearing stuff out. And I feel that's why she's so present. She's really, I feel, talking to us individually and collectively about what is it that I'm holding on to? And can I just loosen my grip? And if it's meant to be with us, it will stay. And
mhm.
if it's not, it's going to be transformed and repurposed into something else. But she's there to help because
Mm,
sometimes letting go is difficult. We know
yeah,
this,
thank
but
you
she's
for
there to help.
thank you for that. That feels really, like, very important medicine for me personally. Like, we're about to do an offsite at Ziva. My team's coming over, and we're, like, rebirthing the whole thing. And it's just like, it's hard to let go of your babies. It's hard to be like, well, which course is going to die and which system goes away. So I'm gonna call in Kalima. And then also in this container with Egypt, so much is getting highlighted for deletion. So thank you for the reminder that we can bring in this Sekhmet energy or this Kali energy to help to burn away the irrelevance. And like, it's almost, to me, it's like surrendering to the death. It's like if we fight the death portal, then it gets harder. But if we just like let it fall, then we can trust what stays.
I love that. And I think too, the thing that's been coming to me a lot lately, and I've just done a whole thing like an 11/11 recalibration retreat, I've called it, this little thing online. And it was just a thing I thought, I just want to do this. And people are resonating with this so deeply. And I thought, yeah, we need this because it's not only the death. The death is always a new life, right? The ending is always a beginning. It's just this flip side. And so
Mm.
I love that you're going through that process with your work. I've been doing it myself the past probably 12 months, really. It's sort of like clarifying and releasing, but also having the courage to vision, what might the new form look like, and not trying to muscle it.
Yeah.
Muscle the vision is not so great, I find.
Mhm.
But, opening to receive it and allowing that sense of, if the mind is cleared, is there another way to look at something? Is there another view? I always find with spirit, when I'm stuck with something, or when something just feels like it's not right, or I'm struggling to find gratitude, or there's something that I feel like I can tell I'm in my head about it. Right? I know there's a bigger wisdom here somewhere. Whenever I have those moments, I ask and I say, please show me. And then I kind of let it go. I go do something, have a shower, go for a walk, sing, do some singing practice, whatever it is. And I just do something else. And you never lift heavy weights. I did that the other day. It's great because you can't faff about up here if you're bloody deadlifting, whatever. You want to focus on what you're doing. So I do my thing, and then the awareness drops in, and it will always be this subtle reframe, but it frees me.
Ah,
It gives me a sense of appreciation
yeah.
where in the past there might have been judgment. And it's just like, oh, this is that recalibration. And it can happen in big ways in our lives, but sometimes it's the small things that just give us that mental peace in the moment, peace amongst the uncertainty.
Mm.
Somehow it's going to be all right. Peace amongst the chaos. This is change, maybe even healing change. Peace
Mm.
amongst this sense of, I don't know, how I'm going to show up for this, but I trust myself and I know it will manifest at the right time, and I'll take the journey. These little things that make life, I think, more enjoyable, a bit sweeter, give us more courage. Yeah.
So well said. And it feels like, I think you're right. I love the analogy that you said about the clock within the clock, the cycle within the cycle. We're in a 9 year, which is a completion, and who knows what's happening in the yugas, but there's something shifting. In Egypt, we were really feeling like, depending on whose gifts were what, but they were feeling like new solar codes coming in, new plasma codes, grids coming in, like the actual like energetic grid of the earth changing, and you know everyone sees it in their own way, but it feels almost irrefutable that there are old systems that are changing, dying, being destroyed in real time. And I believe in the Vedic philosophy of creation, maintenance, and destruction, that on the other side of destruction will be creation, that this is an immutable truth. It's like a law of nature. And so for me, it's like, how do we put our attention on the creativity of what is coming next? And so I'm curious if you would be so kind as to like tune into like, what is the divine feminine wisdom that wants to be relayed right now as we go into potentially like a time of real intensity, and maybe not, like I don't know how it's going to play out, like maybe it's all much more elegant than we could conceive of because we just really learned to surrender, or there is some massive awakening, or there is some massive healing. I don't know. But if you had to tune into, like, what would the divine feminine or what would cosmic intelligence have us as individuals and as collective know as we move through this massive portal of change? Is there something that wants to come through now?
I love that question. And I do believe there is an elegance and a chaos and the mass birthing and all of the things. What was occurring to me when you were speaking was this sense of dropping into an alignment with something that, whatever it is for each individual, actually doesn't matter. But
Mm.
what matters is the effect of it. Dropping into that alignment with something that brings you to a place of inner stability, inner peace, inner trust. So you're connected to your value system, regardless of how much fluctuation may be happening, even in your own mind at times, but in the circumstances around you and what's happening in the world, and just letting the feminine do her thing.
Mm.
She's she's non-linear, she's non-rational, but she's not irrational. It just means we can't perceive or necessarily understand, because the creative matrix that she moves in is so vast and so all-encompassing. So we can either get hooked on the need to perceive and understand or control, which guaranteed will make you completely insane and not in a good way.
But I
Guaranteed.
love my illusion of control.
I know. Enjoy it. Let's all enjoy it, but let's recognize there's a limit, and this is going to fuck you up if you keep trying to hold on to this too much. So you can do that for as much as you want to, and or you can surrender in and recognize we're a drop in the ocean, but we do belong to the ocean, and the ocean has power. And if we allow ourselves to be in the truth of what we are and take our journey as our individual drops, and we recognize we belong to something greater, we'll be protected, we'll move. When we're moving in authenticity, we're moving in alignment. It's the safest place to be, even though the outer world and all its conditioning may tell you otherwise. Oh, jump through these hoops, do this, do that, takes you out of yourself. That'll make you safer. It's complete bullshit. It's not safer at all. But you come back to that sense of, what is my alignment? What is my inner orientation? How can it strengthen me to surrender? So it's like a dance. You have the strength to be able to move with the rhythm and allow the rhythm to move you. So you're not all over the place. You're connected to something, but you're not trying to fix it, control it, direct it. You're moving with it. You're participating, because we are all part of this. I know we look separate. We feel separate sometimes, but we're not. We're part of this ecosystem of divine creativity that's completely incomprehensible a lot of the time. I mean, what the hell is life, really? It's just a madhouse, but it's also beautiful and wise.
Mm.
Mm, it's all
Mm.
the things.
Oh, thank you so much for opening up your channel and your oracle and gifting us that. It really feels like such a gift to receive your written words, but now to receive it in real time out of your mouth hole is just a gift.
There's a few
Um,
more swear words thrown in the mix. Yeah, my apologies if anyone has elegant sensibilities. Forgive me. I'm
so
Australian.
the next, I'm very lit up about this idea of doing activations at sacred sites around the planet, and so with
Yeah.
each one, there comes its own lineage or its own temple codes or its own pantheon that goes with it. And the next one we're doing is Greece, and so I
Mm.
guess two questions is one: do you have any? Have you worked with the Greek pantheon at all in any of your decks, and which ones are those? So,
Yes,
or
I have. In Sarasvati Healing, we connect with Hecate, who's just one of my favorites. She's in the Crystal Mandala Oracle as
Mm,
well. There's a lot of energy in the Greek tradition that I really resonate with. Persephone is also in, and what's she in? Crystal Mandala Oracle and the
mm,
Crystal Goddesses 888 book. So yeah, she's in Sarasvati Healing. She's there again.
okay.
So yeah, but I think there's something about the feminine in the Greek tradition that I find really fascinating, the way it
Mm,
fits into that system. But Hecate, I love, because
mm,
she's witchcraft and crossroads and the dark feminine and the grandmother and the fierceness and
mm.
jangling the keys and dogs, three-headed dogs barking at her side. I mean, how can you not love her?
Ah, I love you. Um,
Love you too.
So the theme of this trip is really going to be like awakening the inner oracle, like awakening to your own oracular
Oh,
nature. And I do
nice.
not consider myself an oracle. I would consider myself, I think, a channel of sorts in that when I'm teaching, and I have an open throat in human design, and I've been performing since I was 8. And so there is something that I've practiced about a vessel and speaking the medicine of the people who are in front of me. What do they need to hear? But to me, that's almost like tuning into the divine intelligence of their medicine, which to me is different than like tuning into a specific frequency of divinity. And to me, like when it happens with Isis, it's fully non-consensual, meaning like I mean I've ultimately consented, but like she's driving the ship, you know what I mean? Like I am in
Yeah,
surrender, I'm not like calling her in. That's
yeah,
not true. I
transparent.
do
Yeah,
invoke her, but it feels like she's using me.
yeah, you're
Long
handing
story
yourself over.
short, do you
Yeah.
have any like pro tips or like ways that you might recommend that myself or people who decide to go on this pilgrimage might ready themselves or set the conditions to open up their oracular nature or to themselves step into being more oracle?
Yeah, 100%. I'm actually very passionate about this. You wanna know what you're opening up to. You don't just fling the doors open and let whoever happens to be walking past, you know? No. So
Okay.
so
Yep. It's a really good
so,
step one.
yeah,
Don't
so
just
step
start
1.
channeling anybody.
Yeah,
Mhm.
step 1, intentionality of the
Mhm.
frequency that you wanna connect with. So I always work with enlightened being, no matter what tradition, what thing, always. That's the prerequisite. You have enlightened wisdom. I remember a teacher telling me this story once about a woman who was channeling in his group. He was doing teaching channeling courses, and she was channeling Saint Germain apparently. And then about 5 minutes in, and she was trans channeled, so she didn't have any sense of it, she just started telling dirty jokes. It's like, I'm sorry. I mean, entertaining, not an ascended master. Like,
Was Saint Germain doing this or some other entity came in? Some other thing
it
came
was
in?
not Saint Germain.
Ah,
I mean,
do you know who it
it's
was? Just like a
not
retired comedian. Just like, "You know
some
what? I got a
Joe,
couple more jokes to get in,
some
folks."
Joe on the inner planes that still was loving the hadn't quite
You know,
detached
I got
from
cut
being
off
on stage.
mid-set. I got a tight 5.
He's someone that's open, we'll just scoot in. So,
And so in that case,
yeah,
are you just setting like a protective prayer? Is that just the underlying intention?
protective prayer and also like your own heart purity.
Mm,
Like you've got to do self-inquiry. You're coming at this to be special, to have power, to
mhm,
have something that's, you know, we all get attracted and seduced by the charisma of different abilities, but when it all comes down to it, if you want it to be a good experience and you want it to be something that really changes you, you have to approach it with generosity and genuineness and humility. I imagine people that are on this path, you know, they're going to already feel this. This won't be anything new, but I think it's important. Purity and that sense of alignment. This is with absolute sincerity. I want to connect with something that is coming from this higher place, and your channel will be purified. If you want to do that, it will, you know, and it's not always great, as you know, because you were retching on the side of the Nile or whatever. So, you know, purification is not always easy.
mhm,
But in my experience, it's worth it. And just go gently and be good to your heart. That's
mm,
what I would say.
mhm. And I
Mm.
wonder how much of that like, what I heard was, like, a genuineness of the desire for yourself, right? That it's like, I genuinely and almost humbly, am seeking this gift, but I'm curious, to me, it's like, then what's the why, right? Of, like, the ostensibly, the yeah, to be in service to someone or something else. Yeah.
Yes, it's not for you. You're willing, you're asking to be part of the process, but I for me at least, I never go in and say, "I need this, give this to me." Never.
Mhm,
I go in and say because I understand my nature, I understand kinda how I'm built, so I'm like, "Let me be your eyes, let me be your ears," and the whole, you know, the being that I'm praying to, the intelligence that I'm praying to, it wants to benefit beings. So that's implicit, and that's what saves you from getting into dirty jokes territory or whatever with something. It's
or
not,
worse.
or worse, it's not
Yeah,
that it's bad, but you don't want something taking up residence in your field that,
yeah,
you know, you're gonna have to clean out again afterwards. What's the point of that? So,
yeah. And have you
mm.
had any experience with that, of anything that, like, got in, came through in your field or others, and any tips on that?
I've seen so much.
We had a little bit of
We
that in Egypt
yeah,
too. A little bit of
yeah,
a
we will all have seen and experienced things like that.
Mhm,
I have had a lot of experience with this, but I've found, and this is why I love mantra, because it's very purifying, it protects the mind, and it can clear things out. So I've seen people attached to things. Sometimes they don't want that, and you can clear it out. It's not, you know, we don't have to be afraid of this. It's just like getting a bad parasite in your, you know, in your microbiome.
mhm,
You adjust your diet and you supplement and you clear it out and get the good bacteria in there. That's all this is. It's just on a psychic level. So no fear. Just understanding spiritual practice can help.
mhm.
Um,
And when
yeah,
you
and it's
say using mantra, do you mean chanting mantra, playing mantra, singing, all of
both.
it? All of it.
Both, using your voice. I mean, this is the essence of all of my work, and both of those healing modalities that I talked about earlier, the Kuan
Mhm,
Yin transmission and Sarasvati healing, they all use voice. We have this mechanism of creativity, protection, invocation, infusion. It's right there, right in
good,
the throat chakra. We've all got
good.
it. So just knowing the techniques to utilize it and fully engage it, you know, we're all creating from vibrationally all the time. from what we speak and what we choose and how our thoughts are unfolding. So just harnessing that and directing it with a little bit more intentionality and creativity and playfulness, I think can
Mhm.
be really beneficial. So I guess the short answer is there's nothing to really worry about here, but it's good to keep things, with some spiritual hygiene, and that's invocation, intention, practices that support your energy field and keep it at a good vibration. Then it's like
Mhm.
if something's coming along that's a bit lower frequency, a little bit like maybe junk food, and you're a salad, it's going to go, no, like
Yeah.
it's
Take a
just
little
gonna,
probiotics, take a little digestive enzymes. I really love this analogy of just like the good
yeah,
bacteria and the bad bacteria, that it's all there all
yeah,
the time. Which one
yeah.
are you feeding?
We're
Which
just
one
looking
are
at the
you
balance. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. So another thing I did not do on the show is that I normally get really clear on like why isn't everyone blank? Like why isn't everyone? And so I'm curious. Like I'll ask you the question live. Like when is the time in your life that you found something so good, so life transforming that you were like, wait, why isn't everyone doing this? Like, well, how would
I
you answer
was
that question?
I remember I had started work as a healer and I was still working primarily with light. And then I was sitting with a client and I started to sing. I've sung, and performed since I was a little girl. So I love all of that. And I love connecting it with the spiritual dimension because the luminosity of it feels aligned for me. So I started to sing her a song that was just kind of coming to me from spirit in my head and into her energy field. And the change in her energy, she started to cry and all this stuff happened. I was just like, my God, it's just a little song. Like, what is this? And I realized, it's sound,
Hmm.
it's voice. That changed everything for me. And I started to work with sometimes speech, sometimes mantra, sometimes it could be music or voice, like voice healing, sound healing, whatever it was that came through. And I, built two modalities around it because I thought this changes things. And I mean, you look at in the Bible, in the beginning was the word. You look in the Vedic tradition, talk about Sarasvati. She's the creatrix. She speaks. She's the oracle. She says things. All the gods go, "That's not going to happen," and she's just like, "You just wait." And it does. So it's like the the power of voice and the power that we have to speak and decree. It's potent. We have to take responsibility for it, but it's there. So why not use it in a way that really is uplifting and beneficial for ourselves and for the people around us? So that's why I think why isn't everyone doing this? Why isn't everyone speaking with their soul voice?
Yes, like why isn't everyone speaking like with their inner oracle or like speaking from this like divine intelligence that wants to flow through us, which has
Yeah.
so many different names. Oh, wow. I'm so honored to meet you. I'm so
Well,
humbled
likewise.
that you exist on the planet. I'm so honored I get to spend so much time with you. Is there anything that you wish that I had asked you? Is there anything that's like bubbling up or new that you wish that I had asked about?
No, I've loved the conversation, and I'm so grateful for you. I love that we touched on these different elements. One of the things that I'm really diving deep into is the dark feminine and the dark masculine, and what these energies are about, and how we can make them conscious. So that's my real deep dive at the moment, and
Mhm.
I'm just trusting that process.
I
So
was
I
gonna
guess
say,
what?
is any of your work around the masculine? No, I guess
Yes,
it's the mhm,
Yes. So in the Kuan Yin transmission, I work with the divine masculine in like a tantric invocation. So it's
mhm,
Padmasambhava, but it could be Christ. You can connect with whatever form. So he's there, and in Sarasvati healing, in the second half of the program that's more advanced, we start to work with the divine masculine energy. So I weave it in, but I'm starting to do even deeper work with it, and it's kind of in a good way. Um, Terrifying and amazing. And I always know that's when something's potent, when I'm like, oh, I'm really feeling like I'm being stretched to hold space and to be able to take this into my own consciousness before sharing it. Um, but
wow.
yeah, but it's there. And I love that he comes through, but it's always feminine first. And I
Mhm.
never understood that. Why is that? And I asked Spirit, I was just like, well, the feminine is love and the container. Try to make a salad without a container, you're just going to have a mess. You need a bowl. So you've got to have the container, that strong feminine that can handle whatever it is that's going to arise. And then the masculine has a place to transform. And goodness knows there's a lot of masculine energy on the planet and in human beings that needs to transform. It needs enough love to hold it, to go through the violations that it's been through, the degradations, and to stop reenacting it, perpetuating trauma as culture. We've got to stop doing that.
Mhm.
And it needs that feminine space,
So that's
that holding.
interesting. I've never heard anyone, maybe not never, but it's rare. I normally hear of like the masculine is the containment and the feminine is the flow. But the way I just heard you say that you feel like the feminine is the container.
Yes, absolutely. She's the womb, quite literally.
Womb.
So,
Womb.
you know, she's the
Mhm.
thing that knows how to alchemize. The masculine moves with this clarity. It's beautiful. But the alchemizing nature, I mean, you need both together to give birth, but nothing's going to happen without a womb space. No
Mm.
plant's going to grow without the soil to put the roots into.
That actually resonates as so much more true to me. Like I've been trying to
Mm.
hold this like, oh, the masculine is the banks of the rivers, the feminine can flow. And I just thought it was my own distortion. But this feels more true to me. Like my body feels like it's softening and relaxing into this. The feminine is the container, the womb, the soil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you
She's
for
very
that.
clever, very strong,
Mhm.
very clever. Yeah.
Mm. And if you had like one, you could wave a magic wand, you could install one code, one transmission into the entire species. What would it be?
Trust.
Ah, period. Trust,
Trust.
period. Trust yourself, trust nature, trust.
Trust. Just trust. Trust the journey, trust yourself, trust your process,
Mm.
trust what's happening, trust in the bigger vision that you can't see yet, trust in what you've learned from what's happened before you. Just trust. Be participant. Because when we trust, we show up, we participate, we have courage, we take the journey, we're not put off when things don't make sense, we're willing to be in the uncertainty. Trust does a huge amount. Trust is like the trip switch for being alive.
Ooh,
Mm.
trust.
Mm.
What an honor to meet you. Thank you for your lifetime of practice. Thank you for the times that you've stressed yourself open again and again. Thank you for the, I'm sure, countless times you faced your own shadow and darkness to let in so much light and to let in so many different fractals of the divine feminine to flow through you. I'm excited to be your student and to study at your feet and to hopefully, God willing, inshallah, as they say in Egypt,
Yeah.
maybe do something together or create some
Oh,
magic
I'd
on the
love
planet
to.
together. But you're just wow, wow, wow. Thank you for changing my life and the lives of hundreds of my students directly and millions of people on the planet. You are really, really a gift. And I hope we get to play again soon.
I so look forward to it. Huge gratitude for you and your grace,
Mm.
beloved. Thank you.
Mm. All right, sweet friends, if you have enjoyed this audacious episode with this channel, with this living oracle, Alana Fairchild, I invite you to check out her work. Get the Isis deck if you don't have it, the Sacred Rebels deck, the Kuan Yin deck. I mean, her whole anthology. We'll put the links in the bio. And if you've learned something here, my invitation is to screenshot this, tag us. I'm at Ziva Meditation. What's your Instagram, Alana? Are you on Instagram?
Yes, yes. It's just at what is it? Alana_Fairchild, I think,
Okay.
or official, something like that. I'm there.
Well, find us,
In the
tag us.
notes.
Let us know what you learned. Let us know if there was a piece of your own oracle that got awakened. Let us know if there was a way that you trust yourself now that you didn't maybe before you heard this conversation. But we love you. We love you. We love you. And we'll see you next week on Why Isn't Everyone Doing This?